Chapter 32 of Character Building. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Luke Sartor. Character Building by Booker T. Washington. Chapter 32. Character as shown in dress. It is surprising how much we can tell about a person's character by his dress. I think it is very seldom that we cannot tell whether a person is ignorant or educated, simply by his dress. And there are some few plain facts about dress that I am going to mention to you tonight. While it is hard to lay down any rules as to how we must dress, I think there are some well-defined principles of dress to which all well-educated persons will conform. I think we will all agree that our dress should be clean. There is little excuse for persons wearing filthy clothes. I think we all will agree as to that. It is disgraceful for a man to go about with ragged clothes, or with clothes fastened together with pins where buttons ought to be. It is disgraceful for a girl to go about with a soiled apron, or with her clothes pinned together. Our clothes should be kept clean and in good repair. Thus far, I think, we shall have no disagreement. But there are some people who make the mistake of giving their whole mind to the subject of dress. From the very beginning of the week, you will find that a great part of their thought and attention is given to planning what they are going to wear the next Sunday. Some people will go in rags all through the week, in order to have something showy to wear on Sunday. I think we should respect Sunday by putting on something different from what we wear during the week, if we can. Although, of course, these things are largely governed by our station in life. But even then, it certainly is inappropriate to wear our most showy clothes on that day. Dress in the way that your pocket will allow. There are some persons who not only employ all their thoughts in considering what they shall wear, but also spend all their money on their clothes. There are some persons who live for the sake of dress. These persons are usually denominated fops. I think the people in the northern cities are the worst in this respect. If you go through 6th Avenue in New York or Cambridge Street in Boston, you will see many of these fops, who perhaps earn about $20 a month, standing on the street corners with kid gloves on, cigars between their lips, and high hats. Now that kind of a person is a foolish fop, and one whom we do not care to have in this institution. There is no more foolish person than the one who spends all he makes, and sometimes more, on dress. Then, too, I think there are persons who make mistakes in the matter of ornaments, what we call jewelry. You will find many a man whose income is not $20 a month, wearing a great brass watch chain with so much brass in it that you can almost smell it. You will see men and women with 3 or 4 brass finger rings, or women with brass earrings. Do you know that one of the most common mistakes among the masses of our people in the country is throwing away their money on cheap jewelry? Do you know that they will come into town, to the stores, and spend their money on jewelry worth about 10 cents apiece, jewelry that you actually can get for $6, and a bushel $7 at wholesale? Our people spend thousands of dollars every year for this cheap jewelry. If there is a young man or a young woman here who likes jewelry and is going to indulge in it, be sure to get that which is modest. Another mistake that some of our people make is in wearing flashy or loud dressy clothing, dress in which bright colors and red ribbons predominate. Our dress should be modest, with few colors. We often make a mistake in getting shoes about 2 sizes too small. I saw a girl this morning in perfect misery, simply because she had bought and was trying to wear a pair of shoes about 2 sizes too small. Such people simply punish their feet to make people think they have small feet, though it is just as honourable to have a large foot as a small one. There is no difference. Then we make another mistake in buying cheap, showy shoes simply because they have a gloss on them. Such shoes are made to attract attention and not for comfort or durability. When you are spending your money for shoes, be sure that you get something good, something that will last you. Do not buy those worthless things which, when they come in contact with water, will shrivel up because they are made of cheap material. A man cannot respect a girl who punishes her feet in order to make them look small. Then another thing. Some of us think we can improve our colour. Some get flour, and others get other kinds of mixtures, which are called face powders. There is no use for this. Any man will lose respect for a girl who abuses herself in this way. Only get something into your head, and then you will find that these matters of dress will adjust themselves. While some of you do not dress so well as you might, yet, if you will give the contents of your heads the proper attention, you will find that the matter of dress will not trouble you. You can get dresses and clothes after you have secured your education. But now is the only time that you have in which to secure the education. End of chapter 32. Character as shown in dress. Recording by Luke Sartor, Griffith, New South Wales. Chapter 33 of Character Building. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Luke Sartor. Character Building by Booker T. Washington. Chapter 33. Sing the Old Songs. There is no part of our chapel exercises that gives me more pleasure than the beautiful Negro melodies which you sing. I believe there is no part of the service more truly spiritual, more elevating. Wherever you go, after you leave this school, I hope that you will never give up the singing of these songs. If you go out to have schools of your own, have your pupils sing them as you have sung them here, and teach them to see the beauty which dwells in these songs. When in New York, not long ago, I had the pleasure of conversing with Prince Henry of Prussia. He spoke particularly of the beauty of these songs, and said that in his own home in Germany, he and his family often sing them. He asked if there was any printed collection of these songs, that a copy might be sent him, and I have since then forwarded to him a copy of the Book of Plantation Melodies, collected and published under the auspices of Hampton Institute. When Christ was upon this earth, he said, "A little child shall lead them." Whence comes this supreme power of leadership? In this age, when we hear so much said about leaders of men, about successful leadership, we do well to stop to consider this admonition of the Saviour. Some are said to lead in business, others in education, others in politics or in religion. What is the explanation of "a little child shall lead them"? Simply this: a little child, under all circumstances, is its simple, pure, sweet self, never appearing big when it is little, never appearing learned when it is ignorant, never appearing wealthy when it is in poverty, never appearing important when it is unimportant. In a word, the life of the child is founded upon the great and immutable, and yet simple, tender, and delicate laws of nature. There is no pretense, there is no mockery. There is an unconscious, beautiful, strong clinging to truth. And it is this divine quality, in child or in man, in Jew or Gentile, in Christian or Mohammedan, in the ancient world or in the modern world, in a black man or in a white man, that always has led men and moulded their activity. The men who have been brave enough, wise enough, simple enough, self-denying enough to plant themselves upon this rock of truth and there stand, have, in the end, drawn the world unto them, even as Christ said, I will draw all men unto me. Such a man was Luther. Such a man was Wesley. Such a man was Carlyle. Such a man was Cromwell. Such were Garrison and Phillips. Such was Abraham Lincoln. And such was our own great Frederick Douglass. The thing aimed at by all great souls has been to bring men and races back to the simplicity and purity of childhood, back to reality. What is the most original product with which the Negro race stands accredited? Yes, I am almost ready to add, with which America stands accredited. Without hesitation I answer, those beautiful, weird, quaint, sweet melodies which were the simple, childlike expression of the anguish, the joy, the hopes, the burdens, the faith, the trials of our forefathers, who were the yoke of slavery. Why are they the admiration of the world? Why does every attempt at improvement spoil them? Why do they never fail to touch the tenderest chord, to bring tears from the eyes of rich and poor, from king and humblest toiler alike? Listen how in this beautiful song the soul in trouble is told not to go to houses and temples made by man, but to get close to nature. If you want to see Jesus, go in the wilderness. Go in the wilderness. Go in the wilderness. Go in the wilderness. If you want to see Jesus, go in the wilderness, leaning on the Lord. Oh, brother, how do you feel when you come out of the wilderness? Come out the wilderness. Come out the wilderness. Oh, brother, how do you feel when you come out the wilderness, leaning on the Lord? Then, in another, hear how our foreparents broke through all the deceptions and allurements of false wealth, and in their long days of weariness, expressed their faith in a place where every day would be one of rest. Oh, religion is a fortune. I really do believe. Oh, religion is a fortune. I really do believe. Oh, religion is a fortune. I really do believe. Where Sabbaths have no end. Where you been, poor mourner? Where you been so long? Been down in the valley for to pray, and I ain't done praying yet. Then how, when oppressed by years of servitude to which others thought there would be no end, we hear them break out into quaint and wild bursts of appeal to fact. My Lord delivered Daniel. My Lord delivered Daniel. My Lord delivered Daniel. Why can't he deliver me? I met Pilgrim on the way, and I asked him where he's going. I'm bound for Canaan's happy land, and this is the shouting band. Go on. He delivered Daniel from the lion's den, Jonah from the belly of the whale, and the Hebrew children from the fiery furnace. Then why not every man? Or, when the burden seemed almost too great for human body to endure, there came this simple, childlike prayer. O Lord, O Lord, O my good Lord, keep me from sinking down. O Lord, O my good Lord, keep me from sinking down. I tell you what I mean to do. Keep me from sinking down. I mean to go to heaven too. Keep me from sinking down. Or What could go more directly to nature's heart than the pathetic, yet hopeful, trustful outburst of the little slave boy who was to be taken from his mother to be sold into the far South, when it seemed to him that all earthly happiness was forever blighted? Hear him. "I'm gwine to join de great association. I'm gwine to join de great association. I'm gwine to join de great association. Den my little soul's gwine to shine, shine. Den my little soul's gwine to shine along. Oh, I'm gwine to climb up Jacob's ladder. Den my little soul's gwine to shine, shine. Den my little soul's gwine to shine along. Oh, I'm gwine to climb up higher and higher. Den my little soul's gwine to," etc. "I'm gwine to sit at de welcome table. I'm gwine to feast off milk and honey. I'm gwine to tell God how He saved me. Den my little soul's gonna shine, shine. Den my little soul's gonna shine along. Oh!" And so it has ever been, so it is, and ever will be. The world, regardless of race, or color, or condition, admires and approves a real thing. But sham, buffoonery, mere imitation, mere superficiality, never has brought success and never will bring it. An individual or a race that is strong enough, is wise enough, to disregard makeshifts, customs, prejudices, alluring temptations, deceptions, imitations, to throw off the mask of unreality and plant itself deep down in the clay, or on the solid granite of nature, is the individual or the race that will crawl up, struggle up, yes, even burst up, and in the effort of doing so will gain a strength that will command for it respect and recognition. Before an individual or a race thus equipped, race prejudice, senseless customs, oppressions, will hide their faces forever in blushing shame. End of chapter 33. Sing the old songs. Recording by Luke Sartor, Griffith, New South Wales. Chapter 34 of Character Building. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Luke Sartor. Character Building by Booker T. Washington. Chapter 34. Getting Down to Mother Earth. One of the highest ambitions of every man leaving Tuskegee Institute should be to help the people of his race find bottom, find bedrock, and then help them to stand upon that foundation. If we, who are interested in the school, can help you to do this, we shall count ourselves satisfied. And until the bedrock of our life is found, and until we are planted thereon, all else is but plaster, but make-believe, but the paper on the walls of a house without framework. That is one of the stepping stones with which nature has provided us. Here the path is plain, if we have the courage to follow it. 85% of the people of the Negro race live, or attempt to live, by some form of agriculture. If we would save the race and lift it up, here is the great opportunity around which, in a large measure, individual, organized, religious and secular effort should center for the next 50 years. But to do this, we must take advantage of the forces at hand. We must stand upon our own feet, and not upon a foundation supplied by another. We must begin our growth where our civilization finds us, and not try to begin on some other civilization. To illustrate what I mean, we need not go to another race, nor very far from home. In a little town in Alabama, there was a sturdy, industrious black man who for nearly 20 years had lived upon rented land, had hired mules and horses to work that land, and had mortgaged his crops to secure food and clothes. He had driven to church on Sunday in a buggy that was not his, and he wore good-looking clothes that were not paid for. In outward appearance he seemed to prosper. He seemed to be what the white men about him were. But this black man knew that he was trying to stand upon an imperfect basis. And so, one day, about a dozen years ago, he made up his mind that henceforth he would be himself, that he would stand upon his own foundation. He told the white man to take back his mules, to take back his wagon and buggy, and he gave up the rented land. He had resolved to be a man. A few acres of land were secured. He made his bed in the cottonseed at night. He hired a boy to come to his place at night, and by moonlight he pulled a plough which the boy guided. In this way a cotton crop was made free from debt. With the small surplus which he got from this, he bought an ox, and with this beast made a second crop free from debt. A mule was bought, and then another. Today, this man is the owner of a comfortable home, is a stockholder in one of the banks of his county, and his note or check will be honored by any business house there. While others were talking or debating over second-hand doctrines learned by rote, this strong son of nature had found himself and solved his own problem. I might tell you the story of another man of our race who began his successful business life in the hollow of a tree for his home, without furniture or bed clothing. But that tree, and the land on which it stood, were his own. You had better begin life in a hollow tree and be a man, than begin it in a rented house and be a mere tool, the imitation of a man. If you were to go into the western part of this country, you would find it filled with men of the highest culture, profound scholarship, and enduring wealth, whose ancestors a few generations ago began life in a dugout, in a hay loft, or in a hole in the side of a mountain. Young men and young women, there is no escape. If we would be great and good and useful, we must pay the price. And remember that when we get down to the fundamental principles of truth, nature draws no color line. I do not want to startle you when I say it, but I should like to see during the next 50 years every colored minister and teacher whose work lies outside the large cities, armed with a thorough knowledge of theoretical and practical agriculture, in connection with his theological and academic training. This, I believe, should be so, because the race is an agricultural one, and because my hope is that it will remain such. Upon this foundation almost every race in history has got its start. With cheap lands, a beautiful climate, and a rich soil, we can lay the foundation of a great and powerful race. The question that confronts us is whether we will take advantage of this opportunity. In a recent number of the New York Independent, Reverend Russell H. Conwell, the pastor of the great Temple Baptist Church in Philadelphia, a church that has a membership of 3,000 persons, tells of the pastor of a small country church in Massachusetts, who, in perplexity at the eternally recurring question of how to make his church pay its expenses, asked Mr. Conwell's advice. I advised him, Mr. Conwell says, to study agricultural chemistry, dairy farming, and household economy. I meant the advice seriously, and he took it seriously. He made his studies, and he made them thoroughly. On the Sunday when he preached his first practical sermon, which was the outgrowth of his helpful learning, its topic was scientific manures, with appropriate scriptural allusions. He had just 17 listeners. These 17, however, were greatly interested. Later on, they discussed the remarkable departure with their friends who had not attended the service. The result was that within 5 Sundays the church was packed with worshippers who had discovered that heaven is not such a long distance from earth after all. In the present condition of our race, what an immense gain it would be if from every church in the vast agricultural region of the South there could be preached every Sunday 2 sermons on religion, and a lesson or lecture given on the principles of intelligent agriculture, on the importance of the ownership of land, and on the importance of building comfortable homes. I believe that if this policy could be pursued, instead of the now too often poorly clothed, poorly fed, and poorly housed ministers, with salaries ranging from $100 to $300 a year, we should soon have communities and churches on their feet to such an extent that hundreds of ministers who now live at a dying race would be supported in a manner commensurate with the dignity of the profession. Not only this, but such a policy would result in giving the ministry such an ideal of the dignity of labour and such a love for it that the minister's own home and garden and farm would be constant object lessons for his followers, and at the same time sources from which he could draw support, which would make him in a large measure independent. One of the most successful and most honoured ministers I know is a man who owns and cultivates 50 acres of land. This land yields him an income sufficient to live on each year. This man's note or cheque is gladly honoured at the bank. Because of his independence, he leads his people instead of having to cater to their whims. It may be suggested that what I plead for has not been done by others after this fashion. It was done in the early years of the settlement of New England, and persevered in by the ministers there until the people of the country had become sufficiently prosperous to support their ministers suitably. Besides, if one race of people, or one individual, is simply to follow in the steps of another, no progress would ever be possible in the world. Let us remember that no other race of people ever had such a problem to work out as we have. What I have tried to say to you tonight about agricultural life may be said with equal emphasis about city occupations. Show me the race that leads in work, in wood and in metal, in the building of houses and factories, and in the constructing and operating of machinery, and I will show you the race that in the long run moulds public thought, that controls government, that leads in commerce, in the sciences, in the arts, and in the professions. What we should do in all our schools is to turn out fewer job seekers and more job makers. Anyone can seek a job, but it requires a person of rare ability to create a job. If it may seem to some of you that what I have been saying overlooks the development of the race in morals, ethics, religion, and statesmanship, my answer would be this. You might as well argue that because a tree is planted deep down in Mother Earth, because it comes in contact with clay and rocks and sand and water, that through its graceful branches, its beautiful leaves, and its fragrant blossoms, it teaches no lesson of truth, beauty, and divinity. You cannot plant a tree in air and have it live. Try it. No matter how much we may praise its proportions and enjoy its beauty, it dies unless its roots and fibers touch and have their foundation in Mother Earth. What is true of the tree is true of a race. End of chapter 34. Getting Down to Mother Earth. Recording by Luke Sartor. Griffith, New South Wales.